Alright, y'all, so we got this movie called Troll. And you basically got this chick named Nora with her dad. They're like climbing up these mountains. He gives some story about seeing is believing and all this other stuff. We found out her mom died when she was like 10. Then we get to like 20 years later. Nora's on this excavation for like 6 months looking up like trying to find fossils and dinosaur bones and shit. And she ended up finding some, but we're not really sure if they're dinosaur bones. Then inside these mountains that are called Troll Peak Mountains, you got these people that's about to blow up the insides of the mountains or whatever like that. Then you got these other protesters like, save the mountains, save the mountains. I'm like, who are these people on this island? So then they set up some detonators and blow up a bottom part of the mountain or whatever. But when they go back inside, all you hear is, "Rrrr." What the fuck noise is that? But before they get out, all the excavators collapse in the mountain. They all done deal dead as shit. So at this time, Nora's in Norway. Nora in Norway. She's about to give this grandiose speech to all the excavators and stuff like that, finding dinosaur bones. There's some military dudes coming in a helicopter. They kidnap her and tell her, like, yeah, we're taking you to Oslo. Not really kidnap, they, escort her there. So she's got to be pretty important if they show her the secret tunnel or basement, right? With all these standing officials and prime ministers and shit. So basically, somebody recorded a disaster that happened at the mountains, right? So they show the footage and people like, save the mountains, save the. And then they start hearing the noise again, like, "Rrr." Like, what the fuck? Pretty much everybody there got done deal dead as shit. But the crazy thing is, what was taking everybody out? Because the explosion already took place. It was like all of a sudden the mountain was breaking from the inside, pieces was flying all over the place. Then they stopped the footage. It looked like something big was actually stepping out the mountains. You know what I'm saying? It had like arms and legs and shit. So when the people in the office looked at the terrain, they thought it was like sinkholes or all this other stuff. But Nora's looking at the territory. She's like, nah, it looks like fucking footprints. So obviously the rest of the military is thinking to themselves, like, what kind of animal has these big ass footprints? Like, really? Then you got this old couple with their dog. They're just chilling in the house, minding their business. All of a sudden, they start hearing noise jumping off again. Because they was basically sitting around and drinking tea. Then the camera focuses in on the teacup that's like shaking on some Jurassic Park shit. And they got this little trap door to the basement. So they hide in the basement. After the threat is gone, they come up out the basement and look and find out 3/4 of their fucking house has been stomped out. So basically, they get the news. Nora heads over there with her buddy Charles. He's like this smart guy that rolls with the prime minister. So anyway, they get over to the site. It's excavation site led by Commander Chris. Military personnel and whatnot. They talked to the old couple, but they ain't really see anything. They just heard shit. Obviously, because they weren't able to see nothing because they was in the fucking basement. But they was okay and their dog was okay too. They get outside, do their excavation projects and stuff like that, and they see these big ass fucking footprints. So then they fly to another part of this island and they have to ask somebody about information that she really doesn't want to go to. She goes to this hut and we find out that her dad is still alive after all these years and they basically need his help. So the whole thing between them two is like, yeah, we can go back on an adventure again, like always telling her fairy tales and stuff like that. So Nora showed her dad the footage. He's like, yeah, you know trolls existed back in like the 1840s and all this other stuff. But they think he's just talking a bunch of bullshit. But the thing is, around that time, he tried to explain all this stuff years ago and they ended up putting him in a mental institution. Now, if they thought he was so crazy, why they let him out and go back and live in the house, I have no idea. So basically, they all get together, go to another spot on the island. And she keeps smelling something different and she calls it hyper nature. Apparently, it has a smell that doesn't smell like just regular nature. Go figure. Anyway, the rock they start landing on all of a sudden just opens his eyes. You're like, what the fuck? And this big motherfucker just gets up out of nowhere, and then they see this big ass troll. That's right, they finally see it. So then they get on the helicopter at the same time to recording the footage. They send it back to Oslo. And the military can all see this shit, and they're like, okay, this is what caused the ruckus and mayhem. So they somehow escape and get back to Oslo. And as the father's trying to explain it, they still don't believe the shit. I mean, the prime minister in general are pretty, considerate. This fucker by the name of Tim is like, nah, yo, we ain't with that. He wants them to blow the shit up. And they're like, yo, we don't even know what we're dealing with right now. But it gets to a point, nonetheless, they're going to send an attack team. You get the sense this shit's about to backfire, right? So they go out there at night. All of a sudden, the troll pops up. They shooting it, launching missiles and rockets at it. They ain't doing a damn thing. And it starts wiping out soldiers left and right. They try hiding at a certain spot, but then all of a sudden, the troll starts sniffing. Because apparently they was next to a soldier that was just bleeding out. He was just talking shit. And then the troll ends up eating the soldier or whatever like that. So her dad's talking about, it must have smelled the Christian blood. So anyway, while the rest of the crew is running, the dad stands there and he's like trying to talk sense into it and whatnot. And it seems like the troll's kind of listening at first, but then all of a sudden, fucking chain gun shots shooting him out of nowhere, and you could tell the dad's in trouble. Next thing you know, the chain gun gets stomped out and dad gets kicked all the way across the forest. He couldn't survive that being young, let alone being an old man. So right before he dies, he tells his daughter something about a palace and a moon and a night or something like that. And then after that, he just done deal dead as shit. So she's pretty much distraught, but she got to figure out something about these trolls. So she's thinking back to like the nursery rhymes and things of that nature and how they don't like really like Christians. And the thing they used to always terrorize them was churches or whatever like that. So she comes up with the idea of bells. So she's thinking to herself, maybe the sound to fuck them up or something. The whole time, the prime minister and all these people are thinking like, yo, we got to destroy this thing. And you thinking to yourself, oh, they threw missiles and every fucking thing at it. That shit ain't work. Maybe it's time to think outside the box and go with Nora's idea. So the next thing we see is people just chilling at a park and whatnot. And they all just having fun. And then here comes the troll popping out of nowhere, about to cause ruckus and mayhem. But he's just standing there. Because he was looking at this kid, but the kid wasn't even scared. He was just staring at him like. And before he could really start causing the mayhem, all of a sudden, the military comes through with bells on their helicopters. They swim around ringing the bells, and all of a sudden it started getting his ears and hurting his ears. But after that, he was like, fuck that shit, start grabbing helicopters and throwing them shits at other helicopters, getting niggas that deal. And of course, our heroes in the last helicopter is the only one to survive, right? But because one of the helicopters was falling, it was about to land on the kid, all of a sudden the troll saved the kid and then dips off. After all the ruckus and mayhem he was causing, why did he feel content to just save this one kid? So the military people are pissed off at Nora because niggas got deaded and the plan didn't work. So they basically cut her off the team. Meanwhile, Tim is talking about these nuclear missiles that haven't even been tested yet. They say, yeah, we're going to test them shits out right now. It's either that or the world is doomed. So because that's the theory they're going to go with, Nora ends up being done deal. And then her friend Charles is like, fuck this shit, I'm out too. So as they're leaving, she's looking up like her dad's clues as things called Renfin. She's thinking to herself, what does that mean? And Charles is like, oh yeah, I know that dude, Siegfried. He used to see him all the time with the prime minister or something like that. But Siegfried is where the quote-unquote palace is. Yeah. So basically, he gets to the gates, he lets him in. And Rigmond knew Nora's father very well, or whatever like that. They just had differences of opinions, but bottom line is they used to go on shit together. And because of that, he's going to show him something that nobody's ever seen before. So he's got this like little bat cave and shit where it's like a bunch of cars in. Then he goes into the cave and then he goes deeper into the cave. Now, while this is happening, the troll is heading towards Oslo, a town or whatever like that. But you're thinking to yourself, why would he come from there and go all the way out here? Now we go back to Nora, Charles, and Rigland. Here's the reason why. You get deeper into the cave, and this is actually the troll's cave. And he's got like the bones of all of his family members. They're all done deal dead as shit. But this is basically the spot of where he came from. So he's basically trying to get back to his family, even though we know his family's dead as shit. So at this point, she's basically trying to come up with a plan to finish off this troll once and for all. Bullets ain't doing shit, missiles ain't doing shit. So apparently trolls are not supposed to be out in the day. They can only be out at night. But we've seen the troll rolling around in the day. I guess it's got to have direct sunlight to his face or something like that. But bottom line is it's nighttime right about now. So apparently she's going to come up with some plan with a truck. And she needs Captain Chris and her boys to help out with this plan. So basically while all this is going down, the troll is headed towards Oslo. And Prime Minister them niggas doing their job to evacuate the city. And there's one girl named Kimmy that works in Oslo is cool with Charles. He needs her in part of this plan too. So the thing is, this government missile could destroy anything within like 20 blocks. Kimmy's job is going to be able to intercept that missile. So she got to break into the thing, do bypass codes and shit like that. And she ends up doing it. How the fuck she did this from inside the facility without anybody else knowing is a mystery to me. That's fucking hilarious. Now, Nora and Charles got this big ass truck, right? And they're about to drive past the troll. And they got this thing on the back of the truck, which I thought was a light, whatever like that. But once they unwrap the ropes, it's one of the troll skulls that they had in the troll cave or whatever like that. So obviously, the troll's going to see it and get pissed off and try to keep following them. Basically, they're going to get the troll to follow them to where Captain Chris is. Now, what does he have set up? I don't know. But halfway through the chase, the troll falls off the back of the truck, the troll skull or whatever. The troll ends up picking up the skull. He looks into the buildings of these glass buildings and sees himself. Breaks the window by accident, but ends up dropping the skull on the ground and it breaks. So you know he's going to get pissed off. And the troll starts looking dead in Nora's face. And Nora's like, okay, we got to get the fuck out of here. So Nora basically drives over to the spot. But the troll's coming fast. So Charles dives out of the car. Nora dives out of the car right before the troll smacks the shit out of it. And he's about to step on her done deal dead as shit. But right when he's about to do it, Captain Chris and the car alarm start going off. So the troll's like, what the fuck is this? So they got the troll in the spot right where they want him. And all of a sudden he starts cranking up these fluorescent lights, aiming it at the troll, about to done deal him. They like, yay, we did it. I'm like, this nigga is still alive. What the fuck is you talking about? But then she's feeling kind of bad for the troll. She's like, no, we're going to end up killing him. I'm like, nigga, this troll's about to stomp your fucking face out. So she turns off the lights and then tries to reason with the troll and whatnot. But then all of a sudden it's about to be morning and the morning sun ends up vanquishing the troll anyway and he gets done deal dead as shit. And I'm like, if the troll survived during the day, why couldn't it survive early morning sunlight? That's some bullshit. Anyway, the troll fell down, turned back into a fucking mountain in the middle of the damn park. And while the troll was being burned at a certain point, they was trying to launch the damn missile again because the Oslo people found out Kimmy intercepted it. Tim was like, hey, launch that goddamn missile. Then Kimmy just punched him in his face. Like, get the fuck out of here. And they told him to abort the mission. And they aborted because more so it wouldn't have been the troll they were trying to kill. They would have killed everybody around there that was trying to stop it. Including Nora, Charles, and Captain Chris and all the boys. Like, come on. So a job well done, that's the end of the movie. But then we get this cut scene back to the mountains, right? And they make it seem like another troll was waking up within the mountains. And then that's how that movie ends. I'm like, all right. So that's Troll for you. Check it out on Netflix. Nigga.